I believe that's it. Does it say it's recording, DJ?
Yep, it says it's recording.
Okay, cool. So, this is just a casual conversation, everybody. So feel free if you have questions. Don't be afraid to talk. Don't be afraid to, if someone's talking, to raise your hand or whatever you got to do. But we're just relaxing. Me personally, I'm just having some coffee. So don't be shy. Anybody starting off, anybody got anything they want to talk about or any questions that come to mind at all?
Yeah, I was
for
just
me, it's okay. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead, Tomas.
We'll do Thomas,
All
and then when he's done, DJ, hop in and say what you were going to say. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead, buddy.
Right. So recently, there has been a lot of pleasantness coming up, but not so much relaxing into the pleasantness. Sometimes so strong that it's almost like contracting. And it's also that on how to proceed.
So you're feeling pleasantness, but not relaxation?
Yeah, it would kind of how I would describe it is kind of there is so much joy coming up that it kind of like takes me kind of with it, and usually the face gets very, very kind of tight because there's just so much joy, it's hard to contain. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, don't get too worried if there's 35% joy and only 67% this and 20% that, and relaxation is only 10%. It's okay as long as you're not in dukkha, as long as you're not dissatisfied. But if there's any pleasant feeling, that's good. And even if there is a little dukkha, that's good too. That's okay, because you know you can change it with wholesome thoughts and actions when we remember to look and change. So don't worry if it's this way or that way. You know, whatever way it is perfect. Good enough. Good enough is perfect, just the way it is.
All right.
Yeah, I find that to be actually a fairly common thing, actually, when the joy, starts to arise and then it's kind of felt, that pleasant sensation. But yeah, over practicing, I find, noticing any sort of aversion to that and being like Dhammadasa said, just being like, hey, it's okay, And I think sometimes too, it's okay to feel this way. Yeah, coming back to that.
Yeah. Everything's okay.
Yeah. And it's been. I think there has maybe been some very, very subtle, unwholesome thoughts about this is not like somehow good enough practicing. Yeah. I gotta watch out for those.
Yeah, I have unwholesome thoughts all the time. I just don't listen to them. I just know it's a natural part of the body. If the body didn't have unwholesome thoughts, it wouldn't be a human body. It would just be some weird thing. So unwholesome thoughts are no problem. But also, this is not like, it's something that's even people who don't practice the Dhamma necessarily, they can see at certain moments in their life. For instance, I told DJ this already, but I used to be a driver. And when I would drive, I would get bad road rage. I would get angry at other drivers. But I drove every day, so long for almost 10 years. But after the 5-year mark, something incredible happened. Every day I was getting cut off every day. And then my brain just told me, hey, man, why are you getting so worked up? You've been doing this for 5 years. There's going to be horrible drivers in front of you. There's going to be people making bad decisions in front of you. Why are you getting so worked up? It's like you want to go swim in the water and you get upset because you're getting wet. If you go to drive in your car, sure, you're going to run into some people who aren't driving exactly how you want them to drive or following all the rules of the road. And then the next 5 years of working there, my road rage went down like this. So, and that's not just because I'm practicing Dhamma. That happens to average people in their life, where there's instances they can reflect on and say, hey, I can see how just a little change of perspective, a little nurturing, wholesome talk, a little nurturing, wholesome actions can help change my thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Anybody can see this. This is not magical. This is not mysterious. This is not hard to grasp. You can see how with a subtle change, how come when somebody else loses their car keys or somebody else gets a flat tire, it doesn't bother you? But when it happens to be your car, when it's your keys, it bothers you. Isn't that weird? The Buddha even said, like, look at other people, how they go through troubles in their life and how it doesn't affect you. Eventually, if we cultivate over time enough wisdom, we can see how, sure, nobody wants to lose their car keys. Nobody wants to get a flat tire. Nobody wants these things to happen. But we understand this is a natural part of life, and we don't take it seriously. We don't take it so personally. And then we're free of all the burden. Sure, we get a flat tire, we try to fix it the best we can, but we don't freak out about it. We go on the road, we encounter bad drivers. Sure, that's okay. That's where they go. That's where bad drivers go, is on the road. That's what happens when you jump in the water, you get wet. That's what happens when you live, you face adversity. And this is all okay. It's all impermanent. It all doesn't last. And if you cling to it, you're going to feel great dissatisfaction. And yeah, we don't take it personally. We become more selfless because there's no permanent self. Everything that comes will go. So there's no use getting worked up over anything whatsoever. So many people get worked up. Am I meditating correctly? Did I study the Pali Canon correctly? Let me dig through the Pali Canon and I'll just find the right set of words that will free me, and I'll find the golden carrot. The Pali Canon's beautiful. The words of the Buddha are beautiful. But we don't even need the Buddha. We have Buddhadasa Bhikkhu, a guy who actually lived close to our time period that we can look at his books. We have Dhammarato and DJ and yourselves who are working with the Sangha now. And we don't need to like, oh, is the ancient way good? Is the ancient way? We see people telling us these things. And just like the example I gave of driving for 5 years, these things are concrete, real. It's not up for debate because there is no debate. It's just the way things are. If you take things personally, if you grasp at things, if you want things to be other than they are, you'll be dissatisfied. If you want something that you can't have now, you'll be dissatisfied. But yeah, we're going to come across things that we want in the future. Oh, I wish I could have this. And that's natural and that's okay. But we must see it for what it is. Just a natural human process that, if clung to too tightly, will cause great dissatisfaction. Better to say, oh, it's a hot summer day. I wish I had an ice cream cone. Well, on some days you have money for an ice cream cone, on some days you don't. But you don't have to suffer over it. You can say, oh, I didn't get an ice cream cone today. Oh, no big deal. I'm sure one will come in the future, and if it doesn't, no problem. And then when you get one, you can enjoy it without grasping. You can even throw half of it away because it's just you're enjoying the moment. You're not fixated on a thing that's not here, not here right now. You know what I mean? I want something to be different than it is. Things are the way they are, and we can either accept that, or we could spend a lifetime wishing things were different, wishing we could have something that we don't have, which is silly. And that's how most people live their lives. If only I get the right career, if only I get the right car, if only I study enough of the Pali Canon, then I'll have the secret words and I'll be better than others. So therefore I can achieve something better than everybody else. Who cares about all this stuff? Who cares about achieving? Who cares about goals? Who cares about Buddhism? Who cares about this? Who cares about that? I happened across a book, Buddhadasa Bhikkhu, It wasn't magical. It was very practical. He said some amazing things like, remember to look and change and wake up and come back to the breath, away from all these wandering thoughts, feelings, and emotions that aren't even real anyway, just an impermanent sense of a self. And then you come back to the present moment, and then everything's fine. You're under no obligation to philosophize. You're under no obligation to over-intellectualize. You're under no obligation to answer questions or to even ask questions. Is there a God? Isn't there a God? I tell people all the time, I believe in God 100%, and at the same time, I don't believe in God 100%. I can have both views at the same time, and that like freaks people out. But really what I'm saying is, when I'm satisfied, it doesn't matter. The burden of proof is always on somebody else when you go beyond liking and disliking. For instance, they'll come up to you, do you believe in God? Yes or no? It's like, I don't need to present myself the question, so why do I need to answer you? You know what I mean? They're interested in liking and disliking. They're interested in their beliefs and being and becoming, not us. You know, some days you feel like not, sometimes you don't. Other days I tend to feel this way. Other days I tend to feel this way. I don't get caught up in it too much. So who cares, you know? Like when I'm satisfied, it goes beyond God existing or not existing. It goes beyond Buddhism. It goes beyond a word even called Dhamma. It's just a word. When we're satisfied, we're satisfied. There's nobody there who's searching to like, to dislike, to be or become. When we're satisfied, we take a nice vacation, and the baby dukkha's will arise again. Anger, hatred, delusion, fear, doubt, all those baby dukkhas. Surely, as the sun rises, they will arise again. But they don't last, especially when we're tending to our garden and plucking them out as they come, seeing them for what they are, coming back to the breath, and it's just obliterating those little baby dukkhas. And you get to a nice peaceful state, the unification, samadhi, bringing it all together, and you start living the right livelihood. And the right livelihood is realizing that you have to rinse and repeat this stuff and go through the Eightfold Path once in a while as the dukkha arises, with just enough effort to get rid of the dukkha as it arises. Remembering to look as it arises. Remember, look, change. And even that, don't worry about. Oh, I didn't do it correctly for a big part of the day. Oh, I didn't meditate. I only meditated for 15 minutes. I should have meditated for 20 minutes. Who cares? You're perfect just the way you are. We're all Buddhas. We're all enlightened. We're swimming in enlightenment. Just give up the hope and search for being an arahant. Give up the search for enlightenment. Give up the search to be the perfect Dhamma teacher. Give it all up, and then you become that. Then you are that. You realize you already were that your whole life. Oh.
Yeah, just coming on back to satisfaction. Yeah, this is enough. I like that you brought up the whole burden of proof thing, because that's it. It's like, you know, we can go on with questions and questions, but really it's, I mean, this is why they're the Four Noble Truths, right? Because they're noble and they're true. So it's like we don't need to have all the answers. When we recognize, you know, the end of dissatisfaction, the end of suffering, that is enough. And that doesn't have to be this super far out there thing. We can recognize that here and now.
Yes. And it's easy. It's as easy as breathing.
Yeah, this feels really good.
Yeah. And it's that feeling of goodness is not going to last, and that's okay. And if that's okay, then that feeling of goodness ironically does last. You know? Anger will arise in the future, doubt will arise. But if we're aware of that and we see it for what it is, even when that happens, we say, oh, that's just a biological chemical in the brain. It's just wandering thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Let's come back to the breath. Let's come back to waking up and get back to reality. And all those things that gave us those funny feelings go bye-bye. And they'll be back later. But for now, we feel relaxed, peaceful, joyful. Whatever we feel is good enough. You know?
Yeah, if doubt or, any of the hindrances arise again, we can handle it. We can see it. We can abandon it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I remember I read a book in Buddhadasa who said, and for most of our lives, once we're discovering these things, then if you want to read the Pali Canon, go for it. If you want to chant, go for it. If you want to join a Sangha call, go for it. These are wholesome, wonderful things to do. You want to feed a hungry dog, you want to help change the world, go for it. Nobody's going to stop you. Just don't drive yourself crazy saying, I'm the watchkeeper of the world. I need to make, You don't want to cause yourself and others dukkha by trying to do what you think is wholesome with ignorance. You want to actually do wholesome things by gladdening your mind here and now. And naturally compassion arises. Naturally, these things that they call yanas, they come and go and all these things. Then you can enjoy them as they arise.
Yeah.
My son has autism, and it can be challenging because he's only like 8 years old, but he can get very aggressive. He can have meltdowns and all these things, and it's nonverbal autism. He can't really speak. And it's like, sure, do I wish my son was born without autism and can function normally in society? Sure, that would be wonderful. But if I spend every day thinking, why me? Why my son? What about this? My son was supposed to be like this. But it's so easy to do that. It's so easy to fall into a victim mentality. But when I look at his smiling face here and now, I see the truth of the kingdom of heaven within us here and now. He's just a smiling little bundle of joy. Sure, he'll throw tantrums. Sure, he won't understand communication too well. Who cares? My son's alive. My son's healthy. My son's happy. This is how we look at things that we wish were different. We appreciate the value in them that exists in the moment. I couldn't ask for a more perfect son. Sure, if some cure comes along, like, oh, they fix autism. Sure, I would love that. But if not, I'm perfectly content. I feel blessed beyond everything. Some people, this one musician I like, a very famous musician, his son passed away at the age of something like 24. And he was born healthy. He didn't have autism. But isn't that funny? Isn't that such a juxtaposition? It's like he has a baby that's born, that can talk, that will have romance in its life, that will have these things that my son may or may not have the opportunity. We'll see what happens. But then he dies at 24. So, there's always things that, oh, my son's perfectly healthy. I'm so happy. And that's the other end of the spectrum too. Don't take things like so happy they're going to last forever, because they might not. His son didn't have autism, yet tragedy still struck. And I'm not saying that things need to be a certain way, but the point I'm trying to get across is good and bad things will happen in your life. Don't take them too seriously. Don't get too attached to them. Look for the good in the moment. Look for the value in the moment. And there's always value in the moment, just like there's always the negative path to go down in the moment, the path of illusion, the path of samsara, that everybody seems to be addicted to with bad habits. And that's the real karma, like Dhammarato says, is the bad habits. You want good karma, start doing some good habits, like remembering to stop and look and change once in a while, to wake up and realize those things can't hurt us. Everything's okay right now. There's no reason to be sad. There's no reason to have fear and anger. And even if we say that stuff and the fear and anger is still there, good. Let it be there. It's okay. It's not going to hurt us. Nothing will last forever. Yeah.
It's interesting thinking about that, because we can even turn the bad habits into something that we identify with and set some kind of a goalpost. Like, one day I will be rid of all of my bad habits forever and ever. But until that day, I will suffer. And
Yeah.
so recognizing here and now the bad, like when they arise, it's like that's when we change them. When they arise, we recognize them. We say, oh, wait, no, this is not for my benefit. This is not for the benefit of others. This is for my harm, right? This is for the harm of others. So we can see it and abandon it and then return back to chilling, until the next, like you say, baby dukkahs start coming up. And we see those. Yeah.
Yep.
But I think, having that degree of understanding, though, with that like these things, come up. And there's a chance that they'll come up again, right? So it's good to keep an eye out, to just keep looking. Yeah. Because if they arise, we'll be ready. And, if we fall out of it for a bit, if ignorance takes hold for a little bit, then we can wake up, and then we will get, we'll get back out of the ignorance. We'll see it for what it is. So to have that understanding and compassion for ourselves and others.
Yeah, the compassion part definitely was a big game changer for me. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. These things naturally arise, when we're practicing to be satisfied here and now, to come back to the breath here and now, to reality. These things, compassion, it just comes. You don't have, like Dhammarato says, you don't steal anything because you're satisfied. There's nothing you want. Naturally, compassion arises. Naturally, you live a simple life. Naturally, this thing called the ego or idea of this permanent self naturally dissolves.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting, because even satisfaction itself isn't something we get. It's something that is available when we drop wanting things that we don't have. So.
Yeah. And ironically, when you're satisfied, the very notion of being satisfied or dissatisfied isn't really there. Because if I'm saying I'm so satisfied, then the yin and yang must exist. I know dissatisfaction's around the corner, but when you're truly satisfied, you see everything is what it is, just concepts. It's just concepts. Another concept to chase, another rabbit to chase, another problem to solve, another bullshit issue to deal with. But haven't we dealt enough with those in this life? That's why I like the Dhamma. It's like it taught me, like, oh, we're in the practice of realizing there is no more bullshit issues. They're all gone. Thank God for that.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, if we're going gushing in a sense about the satisfaction. I mean, that's sort of the interesting thing if we're talking about sukha and piti. The piti, that joy that comes up is more of the gushing flavor, at least the way that I understand it. And the sukha is just, this is good enough, and this is also good enough, but one is not like, oh yes, this is the most satisfaction ever, right? And grasp onto that. It's just like, no, the bar is set so low that one can recognize it every time. And that, in a sense, dissolves the bar entirely that we set for that satisfaction. But the piti, the joy will come like overflowing sometimes. Sometimes it's a little bit, sometimes. But, we can ride the wave of that. So if there's a lot of joy, that's cool. If the joy is kind of starting to subside back into nothing, that's cool as well. Because I think what can happen sometimes is we'll have, pleasure and joy come up through practice, and then we'll be like, oh, I want to have that pleasure and joy, but at that point it's a concept and an idea, and we want something in the past. But if we return to, hey, this is good enough right now, that joy will naturally arise.
Yep. Yeah, nothing left to chase.
I'm wondering if you're in your practice, when joy will arise, do you still keep some focus on the breath, or just let it be completely on the joyous feelings and the pleasantness itself?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. The breath for me is something that I focus on when I'm just trying to change some unwholesome thoughts. And then once I'm satisfied, I kind of naturally just start living my life again, and then everything kind of fades away into the background, and there's no problems or anything. So it's not. It's almost like, the path of least resistance. Do whatever works for you. For me, the wholesome thoughts are always. Let's say if I get angry, the wholesome, nurturing thoughts and actions are, hey, dude, we've been down this path a million times. You know that anger doesn't lead to anywhere positive. It just causes dukkha. But it's natural to have anger. It will pass. It's just a chemical in the brain. Everything's okay here and now. And to prove to myself that everything's okay here and now, let's come back to my breath, and it will show us that everything's okay here and now. I come back to my breath, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I was right. Everything is okay here and now. And then I'm like, that's pretty cool. And then you gain confidence, like, wow, I can do this. We congratulate ourselves. I'm getting better. I'm fine. This is easy. And then I pat myself on the back. And thus the wheel of sukha begins instead of the wheel of dukkha. And you gain momentum, you gain confidence. And the practice gets easier, like Dhammarato says, like lifting weights. And where before maybe you'll find yourselves during the day, you had to come back to your breath, come back to these wholesome thoughts, like sometimes over. And then some days you're like, I did the whole day and I just had to come back once or twice. And then you kind of, for me personally, I come back to my breath almost when I don't even have it. I just coming back to my breath because I just enjoy being. It's not even dukkha there. It's just I'll just come back to my breath and just I feel that's why I'm so grateful for Dhammarato. I feel very satisfied from day to day. Sure, I still get angry. Sure, but it's not me. It's just my body, and it's just baby dukkhas that I handle in the moment, and they come and go, and it gets easier over time. So I'm just so thankful for Dhammarato of like helping to show me this practical, simple way of practicing the Dhamma, because it really is. It's so subtle, and it's so profound and awesome because of its simplicity, because it's available to everybody here and now. Like it's the end all be all to everything. It's the bee's knees. If you're not into the Dhamma, it's like good luck. Good luck out there. you know, I wouldn't want to be that. But, I like feeling satisfied. I don't like dukkha. I've had enough dukkha in my life. I don't need it anymore.
It's kind of
Now
funny. Oh, I was just
No,
gonna
go
say
ahead, dude.
Dhammadasa. It's kind of funny you say, for those that, haven't found the Dhamma, or good luck out there, right? Because that's sort of an element, is you're relying on luck for the most part, because things come, they go, who knows, what's going to happen, right? And so
Yes.
the Dhamma is being able to be content and satisfied without knowing what is going to happen, without all these external factors that are unreliable. So that's,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, it's all a crapshoot out there. It's all you're playing Russian roulette out there if you don't have the Dhamma. But if you got the Dhamma, you put down the gun, put down the bullets, and actually just enjoy yourself. Yeah. And it's usually society that's selling you the guns and ammo and telling you about the game of Russian roulette. You got to play this game. It's like, oh, I don't want to play. I don't need all that bullshit. Oh yeah. I found this beautiful Indian saint on YouTube. Oh, I hope I don't forget her name. Shoot, I forget her name. Anyway, if you follow my Instagram, I got it on there. I don't know. Maybe I'll put it in the Discord. But there's this beautiful Indian saint. She's a woman, and I just stumbled across her. But she wears this shirt and this long skirt, and it's just the food she eats just goes down her it just goes down her shirt. It's just like she's got tons of food on her shirt. Her hair is one big like dreadlock. Like she looks dirty. She's like she has a hat on and she's wearing these sandals. But the wonderful, beautiful thing I found about her was I didn't find much videos in English, but just from her energy, just from watching her, she really showed me like, wow, like you're so worried about all this stupid shit that doesn't matter. Like she gave me such a good teaching of silence. Like, she may even appear to be out of balance. Like she's not taking care of her shirt or clothing. She's dirty. So like that's like almost like a Dhamma Theravada, like, oh, that's a no-no. You got to be in balance. But even that was like a spell that was broken while watching her because she was just content as could be, just walking around with her shirt, having dogs follow her, having people, and it was like it was such a spectacle because it was like the opposite of what like a Buddhist Dhamma great practitioner master should be like. But when I saw her, in a way, I knew that's exactly what she was. And it doesn't mean that everybody has to follow her footsteps. But for herself, I just got this energy like, wow, she's satisfied. She doesn't need shit. She doesn't need anybody. She doesn't need anybody showing her anything. Like she's just walking along happy as can be. And I'm like, man, that's awesome. And it also gives me confidence to see people like that and other masters like that, because it's like, how many times do we bitch and complain like, oh, I need new clothes, or I got to get this new thing that I need for my apartment or house or car or this or that or TV or Wi-Fi. And then you look at a person like that with absolutely nothing, doesn't even care if they just look like from like a zombie movie or something. And it's like, wow, you really can get by and be satisfied with your environment in whatever may be the case. Whatever environment you find yourself in, you really can be satisfied. Yeah, maybe I'll post her on Discord. It might not be the best Dhamma teachings, but for me personally, it felt so good just to gaze upon her. I was like, wow, this is awesome. Because she was like the embodiment of don't worry, be happy in my mind. But maybe that's just me. But I'll post it if others are curious.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I think it's cool, Dhammadasa, that like while you were, watching that, you were gauging, your own reaction. I think that's really powerful. Like when we're practicing the Dhamma, is to continue to investigate these things, especially throughout the day when we're watching videos, when we do wake up and to look at those things. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. Am I reacting in such a way to this person's appearance or what have you? Yeah. I think it is interesting, though, that kind of point in terms of the balance there. Yeah, when it comes to, I think that is something that I do appreciate with the Theravada and just Buddhism in general, though, is that there is that sort of middle way between the asceticism and the going into sensual pleasures. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I appreciate it too. It reminds me of a story Ajahn Chah said in his book, A Still Forest Pool, I believe. And he said that he had a young monk under him who was in a kuti, in his little hut, and he let it get very falling apart. It was falling apart. The roof was coming off, and very disheveled little kuti there. And Ajahn Chah walked by, and he's like, "Dude, what are you doing? Like, fix your kuti, like fix your little hut thing. Like, why are you just laying?" He's like, "Well, you told me to let go of these things. You told me." And he's like, and then Ajahn Chah said something along the lines like, he didn't tell the kid this, but he said it to himself. He's like, "What an idiot." He's like, take care of yourself, take care of these things. So that's another, from what I was talking about earlier, that's another shift of perspective.
Yeah.
But to me, it's like all intertwined.
Yeah.
It's I see it all, I see that satisfaction can come in all shapes and sizes. And if I do judge it, like Jesus said, don't judge. If I'm the one who's judging others, then I'm really judging myself. That's where the judgment starts to be born, is when I'm looking at somebody else and saying they should do this, but they shouldn't do that. It's like, they have no problem. They're living their life. You don't even know if they're experiencing dukkha, but all these questions are coming from you.
Yeah.
All these judgments are coming from you. These dukkhas are coming from you. So whatever I see anybody, whether it's the Indian saint or the Ajahn Chah example, I try to find the best in everything I'm seeing and bring it back to gladdening the mind here and now.
Yeah, I think that that's a good point, and that, actually discerning, for oneself, how does this relate here to this practice, right? And yeah, I think also going beyond the personal there, where we're judging the people and just being like, okay, like in this context, what is going to be, more wholesome, and especially now how it relates here, right? So, like, I think that one, upkeeping with some of the ordinary mundane things, that is actually quite helpful for maintaining that balance to continue the practice. So, like, both acknowledging the supramundane level and being able to sustain that, because to a degree, that is also to the ability that we're also able to, like, let go, right? Because we can overcome other things, like other obstacles, like perhaps sloth and torpor, or like, aversion to things, or even aversion to the world, right? So, like, that's again, the monks go on Vrindavat, they go around, they are in, they're still actually engaging quite often with the world in that regard, right? But so it's also being able to temper that aversion to it and find that balance, right? But again, it's also being able to see, okay, maybe in certain circumstances, in certain situations, it's being able to see that, because maybe one is in a position where it's like, no, we don't have, the ability to get new clothes or upkeep the clothes or whatever. And so being able to work with what you got to a certain degree and still be able to find content and happiness, right? So it's sort of, it's going again with that middle way and direct discernment, moment to moment, here and now. But yeah.
It's like when Jesus would sit next to the prostitutes and the beggars and the lepers, and his followers be like, "Why are you sitting next to these people? Why are you associating with these people?" And he's like, "I've not come to save the righteous." If Jesus went up to those people and just started doing what the modern Christians do and going, "Change your ways, you're going to hell, you look like shit, you have to clean yourself, don't be prostitutes, you're bad." But he didn't do that. He befriended them.
Give me 10% of your income.
Yeah, he befriended them and smiled with them and sat with them and didn't judge them. He was the perfect example of what he was teaching. And what happens when he sat down to those next to those prostitutes and lepers, and they felt joy. And even if they, whatever happened in the future, if they changed their ways or did it, in that moment, they weren't prostitutes. They weren't thieves. They weren't beggars. They were just people experiencing joy with Jesus. Because he didn't judge them. He didn't put a label on them. They took the labels off of themselves to see some glorious man sitting down next to them, not scoffing at them. Wow. Yeah, I love the examples of Jesus from the Bible. Not so much the modern take of Christianity, but more so Tolstoyan Christianity is a wonderful take for me. I like that writer Tolstoy's perspective on Christianity, which is very interesting if anybody ever gets a chance to check it out. It's just like the Dhamma, really. Just like the Dhamma we're familiar with. And that's what Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is within you. It's right here, right now, within us all. That's what John the Baptist was all about, too. John the Baptist came out and he was just wearing some basic robes, some basic clothes, kind of like the Theravadan monks, surviving off of what they say is locusts and honey. Oh, yeah, go ahead, buddy.
And he would baptize the people and tell them, be satisfied with what you've got.
What's that?
He would baptize the people and tell them, be satisfied with what you've got.
With what you've got, yes. Be satisfied with what you got.
Yep.
Yes. And he didn't need fancy golden bowls and incense and all this. He just used the river, the nature, the elements to help them do a little ceremony to help change them. Coming back to the breath, John the Baptist came back to the water, just another element. The breath is the wind. The element, the water's there. And even Jesus, that's funny, he would grab some of the earth and write in the earth and spit in it, even rub it on the blind people's eyes. It's funny how they're coming back to the elements, coming back to the here and now. Interesting. Yeah. And it's also interesting to put even Jesus's followers and talking about John the Baptist. You're talking about the person who baptized Jesus, John the Baptist. And how did it end up for him? His head was on a plate for that king. They chopped off his head. And even Jesus himself was crucified. So it's like, no matter if you're the Son of God, no matter if you're the most loyal follower, things happen in life that you can't control. But when Jesus was on the cross and these enemies, or not his enemies, but these enemies of the world, rather, were nailing him to the cross, how did he treat them? With forgiveness, with empathy, asking his Father in heaven to forgive them. I mean, that's a beautiful, maybe it's just all allegory. Maybe it never even happened. Maybe, but in that story, just like in the Garden of Eden story, there's beautiful wisdom there. There's beautiful Dhamma there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. Kind of points back to points
Eightfold
back to ignorance.
path.
Yeah, to ignorance, that it's all stemming from that place of not knowing any better. Because if one truly knew better, they'd just chill out.
Yeah, Jesus could have totally played the victim, right? Poor me, I'm on the cross, everybody's against me. What the fuck? But no, he turned a bad situation into a good situation. He turned the people punishing them into a catalyst to practice wholesome, nurturing thoughts and actions in the present moment. Anybody else could have been so angry and bitter, but he was showing love and compassion. That's the Eightfold Path right there. Remembering to look and change, because I'm sure a lot of dukkha was arising in those moments for Jesus, and he changed it all into the best he could, and it seems like he did a wonderful job. It's been a good example for me anyway. Well, does anybody else have anything to say before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I noticed during listening to this talk and these examples, I sometimes noticed that either there were some questions popping up, and then letting go of those questions, being completely okay without wanting to ask them again. And then there were moments when there was unwholesome thoughts about I should have questions, but I don't have.
That's good looking.
Yeah.
Hey, congratulations. Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing to philosophize about here, nothing to over intellectualize about. Some days we have questions. There's nothing wrong with that. And some days we don't. There's nothing wrong with that. And then when we're satisfied, neither questions nor answers, it even crosses our mind. And if it doesn't, we're satisfied, we'd barely even notice anyway. So, yeah, no problems whatsoever. Everything's perfect here and now. Can we be satisfied here and now?
Yeah,
How about?
Yeah, just would like to thank you guys, for all the videos and being there. And I've been following you, and it's doing me good. Yeah, I'm still trying to get acquainted, with all the technology and all the Theravada Buddhism, and no, it's good to have you. Thank you for being there. For all your work.
Thank all of you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good to see you guys. It's good to see some people on here. That's wonderful. This is what the Dhamma is all about, coming together. Because it's a rinse and repeat process. It's a remembering process. You have to hear this stuff over and over and over. And then it starts sinking in and you're like, wow, I can do this. But yeah, so awesome seeing all you guys. Thank you, DJ. Thank you, the both of you. You guys are awesome.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Thank
This
you.
was nice.
Much peace and love.
Peace.
Yeah, see you.